I literally just recorded this and there was no audio. So David Corset says, "Will a jack plate make my stern heavy?" I have a Boston Whaler 220 Dauntless, exactly like the one Aaron Hill got restored on YouTube. Link below. Great video for anyone wanting to understand what's involved in restoring a boat. My specific questions are: why did you install a jack plate, and did it cause any issues with a heavy stern? So this is the boat that we did it on. Trying to get a pretty good image of it. Here, let's see if I can see what the boat looks like. It's a nice boat. Back of it right here, there's the jack plate that we put on it. We put on a Raptor power pole, and as you can see, it is very similar to a bay boat. It is still a center console, but it is all basically like a bay boat. So let me make myself bigger here and kind of talk about this issue with the weight. So your jack plate is going to weigh anywhere from, depending on the size of it, it could be anywhere from like 25 pounds to 75 pounds for like the very big jack plates. For a bigger engine, like a 300 horsepower engine, is going to have like a 75-pound jack plate, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, depending on the brand and how big it is. Jack plates usually come in setbacks, meaning you've got like a 6-inch setback, an 8-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch setback. So that's how far back the engine's going to set. The weight really doesn't affect the boat that much. You need to think about boats in the form of like leverage and fulcrum points, I guess would be the word to say. So if you have like this much leverage, right? If this is your fulcrum point and this is your leverage, and you try and push on this to lift a heavy weight, it's going to take a lot of force down here to move this big weight. But with the more leverage, the more weight you can move. You can move any weight that you want with enough leverage. So if you move that leverage point over on the fulcrum point, now you've got all this space. It's going to take not much to move this weight based on the leverage that you have. So thinking about that, a boat is designed from the engine, from the manufacturer, to ride and be in a specific way. Everything is thought out in weight distribution on the boat. So if your boat is this long, your engine's right here, and the fulcrum point on the boat is in the middle. So that way, when the boat gets up on plane, you're riding on that middle section back to the engine, and the rest of the front of the boat's going to be out of the water, and you're cruising through, and it's going to have a nice, smooth, solid ride through the water. Based on weight distribution, the more weight that you put in the back of the boat, the heavier that goes, which throws off your fulcrum point. So if you add a lot of weight to the back of the boat, being boat batteries, jack plates, engines, brackets, power poles, raptors, live wells, whatever. Think about everything that you can put in the back of the boat. Like if you could put all your lead weights and your live well and your batteries and all that stuff, you're going to add a lot of weight to the back of the boat. That's going to throw off that fulcrum point based on the weight, and that can make the boat do things like porpoise because there's so much weight and not enough weight in the front, so the back of the boat is always dragging down, and you go over a wave and it starts that porpoising effect because the weight distribution is not there. The same thing goes with the setback of the engine. So you take the engine that's right here and you put it on a 12-inch setback or a 12-inch jack plate. That's going to move that back. So you're moving that fulcrum point and adding more leverage to your outboard. That's more of what you want to think about when it comes to jack plates and doing stuff like that versus um, the weight of the jack plate. The weight of the jack plate is, like I said, minimal. We're talking 70 pounds, 50, 75 pounds for, like that one that we put on there. I think it was like 75 pounds, something like that. So that's not going to make that big of an effect on the boat. The reason that we did that, and like, which makes it worth it or not worth it, is that the functionality of the boat. That boat only drafts not much at all. I want to say like 14 inches or something. Let's actually go look that up just to do it. How much draft 2005 Boston Whaler 220 Dauntless? 15 inches. So I said 14. I was close. So 15-inch draft on the boat. That is, you can get skinny. And as you can see, the boat is very similar to a bay boat. It's still center console, but adding that jack plate gave it a lot more versatility and functionality, in my opinion, based on what we wanted to do and where we used the boat. So with that, that means that the boat it's good to go offshore. Like you can go offshore, you go fishing in that boat. It's perfect for that. But you could also, with the jack plate, you can raise the engine up out of the water. You could trim the engine up, raise it up out of the water, and then go out on the flats because you can get into 15 inches of water. So as long as you've got 2 feet of water on the flats, you can go out there and fly fish for bonefish or something like that. So you can get into really, really skinny waters. Not to mention going to the sandbar, stuff like that. You go to the sandbar when it's really low, you can just take your power pole, back up on it, and then boop, put the power pole down and trim the engine up out of the water. Also, it's going to give you, it's going to increase the top speed. So with the jack plate, you can get the engine back a little bit, which is going to give you a little bit more room to go up, which the higher you bring your engine, the less drag that you have in the water. Less drag equals increasing top speed. So based on the prop and everything. So we did it to add a little bit of speed to the boat as well as bring the versatility and being able to go in really skinny waters in the backcountry around here in the Keys where there are certain islands and stuff based on the tides you can float in and adventure into little areas in the backcountry that normally you wouldn't be able to get into. So it made it a more versatile boat for what we wanted to do with the boat. So I think it was a great addition to the boat. Um, if you're not able, if you're not using it in an area where that's not like a factor, then it's probably not worth it to have a jack plate just to say you have a jack plate, because that boat's not that fast of a boat. Even with like a 300 on the back of it, I think it was barely a 50-mile-an-hour boat. It's not a real fast boat. So putting the jack plate on there, you're not going to add 10 miles an hour. You know what I'm saying? You might add 2-3 miles an hour to your top end speed. So that's kind of a thought there. But whether or not you think a jack plate's worth it, think about it more in the fulcrum point and what it's going to do pushing that weight back, as well as what else is in the back of the boat, because that's something that you could do. That's why a lot of people will move batteries from the back of the boat to the front, to the center console or the middle of the boat, because that weight distribution gets that weight out of the back to the front. Especially if you have a live well in the back of the boat and you put your tackle center in the back of the boat, and now you've got all these lead weights and hooks and other stuff in the back that's weighting you down. The less weight that you get from the back to the front is going to be better, because like when it comes to fishing and stuff like that, you put 3 people in the back of the boat to fish. Now all of a sudden, 3 dudes at anywhere from 150 to 250. That's a lot of weight. You're putting 5, 6, 7, 800 pounds in the back of the boat. Now all of a sudden, your scuppers might go down, and now your deck's getting water on top of it because you got all that weight back there. So that's kind of what I would be thinking there. I wouldn't be worried about the weight of the jack plate. The jack plate weight doesn't do anything. It's not enough to really, unless you're like right on the line and your boat is like right there, based on you bought an older boat and repowered it. But for this boat, it's basically all functionality. Did not have any poor effect on the ride of the boat. It improved it. And yeah, it's all about functionality and what you're doing with it and how you plan on using it, on whether or not it would work for you. But for you, if those are things that you want to do and getting into skinnier water, then that's the jack plate might be a good call for you. And then also anybody that watches this later, um, this is our Skool community. That's where I answered this question from, and this is kind of what we do. I'll go into these different comments and questions posts, and it's a little bit easier to just record a video and talk about the whole situation, as well as we have live streams every single week where you can come in and we can talk about anything that you want to talk about on your boat in that community there.